Good evening. Welcome to the Pandemic Podcast with me, Dan Astin-Gregory. Tonight's episode is entitled 2 Weeks to Flatten the Mandates, where we talk about the impending NHS mandates in the UK and the wider vaccine mandates facing other employers and employees from various other care-related industries. Now, as you will have known, the NHS workers during the course of the pandemic have been celebrated amongst the public. We've seen the weekly clapping for the heroes and the banging of the pots of the pans and the real united focus around supporting NHS and key workers throughout the pandemic. Now, there is therefore some semblance of irony as we now face in 2022 the prospect of losing over 100,000 NHS workers due to a piece of legislation that could force this whole cohort of dedicated NHS workers out of the healthcare system following 2 weeks of following 2 years of incredibly focused and dedicated support to the nation over this difficult time during the pandemic. So this really is a crucial time, and there is many levels of hypocrisy as we enter this potential devastating mandate. And of course, we're not just speaking of the NHS here; we are speaking of many of the other industries that are affected by this, because the mandates affect any industry that is CQ is regulated by the Care Quality Commission. And this includes everything from clinics for mental health, for weight loss clinics, everything from care homes to a whole range of other therapeutic services. So this is a devastating time with tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people's jobs under threat. Whilst at the same time, just this week in the House of Parliament, we see the politicians cheering the fact that the restrictions are over. Now, we're all cheering the fact that the restrictions are over, but there is, again, that great irony with the politicians cheering and celebrating, given that, we've seen in the papers how politicians themselves have not followed these restrictions and mandates necessarily throughout the pandemic. And we have this ludicrous situation where the MPs think and the politicians think they're above the situation, whilst simultaneously leaving the door open for these vast amounts of NHS workers who are threatened by these mandates. So we have 2 weeks to flatten the mandates. This is a brand new campaign that begins this evening. We are launching this now to categorically go full intense, full bore on destroying this mandate, because the deadlines are looming. And when the NHS is affected by this, the NHS will pop. The NHS cannot afford to lose 100,000 plus members of staff and still survive. We've heard countless stories of the overburdened hospitals, the hospitals in crisis, the recruitment backlog, the excessive number of vacancies. You cannot tell me that adding hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of more vacancies to the list is going to help the healthcare service or help save lives. So the NHS workers are being forced to choose between their jobs and jabs, and sadly will be losing their positions if we do not intervene. So now it's time for us to speak up and to take action. No person should ever be in this situation where they are forced to choose between their livelihood and a medical intervention. Forced consent is not consent. It's force. And there's we could use many parallel examples. There's a lot of focus on situations like if you've been to a nightclub and you end up in non-consensual sex, it's quite clear that consent needs to be applied in order for it to be consensual. If you force someone, it's not consent. So here we have a situation where staff are being forced to choose between a jab or their jobs and their livelihoods. Now, the mandate deadlines are rapidly approaching us. So we've planned a 2-week sprint of focused campaigning specifically on this issue. Now, the reason why it's 2 weeks is because of the date by which the workers need to get their first jab in order to make sure they've received their full set of inoculations. And ahead of the deadline. So this first milestone is absolutely critical. So we want to bend the curve on this one to destroy these mandates and flatten the situation. So there's a few things we're going to be doing. So there's a couple of simple actions. You will have seen in the title screen of this episode the blue balloon which says jobs over jabs. We're going to be circulating this image. You'll see me change my profile image of this shortly. We're asking everyone to change their profile image across social media, across Telegram, across all of the messaging platforms that you use, so that this blue balloon floods social media, floods the messaging platforms, so that people cannot ignore this issue. It's so important. There are so many people I speak to who aren't even aware that the NHS workers are due to lose their jobs. So this is just part one of a campaign. For 2 solid weeks, we're going to focus intently. We're writing with the unions. We're writing to the MPs. We're campaigning and lobbying the Labour Party because, of course, the Labour Party failed once again to provide any opposition to these mandates. And, of course, the unions respond favourably to the Labour Party steerage. So it's important that we now turn the tide and do what we can to end these mandates. And this is important for so many reasons. One, yes, of course, we want to protect the NHS workers. They've worked tirelessly throughout the last 2 years. They've been placed under undue conditions due to both the COVID situation and policy, and in fact, more predominantly policy, which has put workers under so much stress. And so much, they've made so many sacrifices. Secondly, because of these other sectors that are affected, the care homes. But more broadly, if we stop this mandate at the door now, then we ward off potential other mandates in the future of this nature. So if we can topple the NHS vaccine mandate in England, then we can topple any other mandate in any other part of the UK. And of course, we really hope that by toppling this NHS mandate, we kick all of the mandates into touch, but also send a ripple around the world that we will not tolerate vaccine mandates in this way. So we know that the NHS workers have worked tirelessly and the care workers have worked tirelessly throughout the last 2 years. They saved lives. Now let's save their jobs. We've got 2 weeks to flatten the mandates. If you've been affected or you are affected by these mandates, there is support out there. If you go to the Workers of England Union website, there's plenty of advice and support there, legal guidance. You can go to workersofengland.co.uk if you're in the care home sector or you're working for the NHS and you're affected by this. You can go to the NHS100k.com website. You can go to Law or Fiction's website as well, where there's legal templates. There's a whole number of resources available for those of you who are affected directly by these mandates. Do not think that you're alone. There are people out here fighting your corner, myself included. So we have this first action. We want everyone to flood social media with the blue jobs, not jabs balloon. We're going to send out some really powerful messaging over the next few days and weeks to raise people's awareness of this situation and show how ludicrous this is. It's so ludicrous, in fact, that the politicians are already talking about living with the virus, to the point where they're now talking about when people test positive for the virus, they will no longer need to self-isolate within a few months. So you can't on one hand place remove these restrictions for the public and then kick your valued healthcare workers out the door in the same breath. This is just deep hypocrisy. So it's really, really important now that we stand strong. We work to protect the NHS workers who have worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic. They, regardless of what's gone on over the last 2 years, this healthcare system we're blessed to have in the United Kingdom, and they're incredible emergency care, and it's really important that we stand now tall to protect them. And all those people that have been clapping for the NHS Heroes, for banging the pots and pans, that weekly activity like a ritual in 2020, it's time for you to stand up to protect those NHS Heroes now. You cannot stand outside your street clapping your hands and banging pots and pans together, yet stay silent and watch tens of thousands of workers get fired for making a different choice to you. So it's really important that we unite together now and we say no. And we've got 2 weeks to flatten the mandates. This 2 week period, we're going to work intently to say no to these mandates. So the first things first, change your profile picture across social media, Telegram, messaging platforms to the blue jobs, not jabs balloon. You'll see that my profile picture later on today. And join us this weekend. Join us this weekend if you can. There are protests taking place all over England, all over Europe, all over the world. This weekend, the 22nd, the worldwide demonstrations for freedom are taking place this weekend. We'll be in London. The Pandemic Podcast team will be in London. I'll be recording the event. Find your local protest. This is not over. No one is free until we're all free. This is the point. We are fighting this battle together. And the first thing there are two major battles we must win in the United Kingdom. First is the vaccine mandate battle. Second is the vaccine passports. And there is many more issues that we require to challenge, everything from the children's vaccinations and all the issues around safety. But nonetheless, in terms of policy, the vaccine mandates and the vaccine passports are the greatest threats to our liberties and rights in the UK. So over the next weeks and months, we must continue until these devastating and egregious policies are eradicated from our shores here in the United Kingdom, and we create a ripple effect around the world so that together we are all free, because none of us are free until we're all free. And it's time for us to unite, not only locally, nationally, but internationally, to challenge these egregious mandates. So you'll see the blue balloon. You will see them all over social media very quickly. I'm going to be changing my balloon picture, posting it on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, etc. You'll see it across the channels. We'll put it in our Telegram channel as well. If you're not on our Telegram channel, please come and join us. You can find us at Pandemic Podcast UK on Telegram, and we'll be posting the details there. But there's over 40 different campaign organizations involved in this campaign. So watch this space. You are going to see a whole raft of activity. Part one is get the balloons out there. Let's send a clear message that we will say no to this mandate. Part two, join us tomorrow in London or different parts of the UK for the worldwide demonstrations. It's important that we do not back down. My view is we have one big push now to get rid of these mandates, to get rid of these policies that hang above us, and then go about seeking accountability and justice beyond that. So I do hope to see you in London this weekend. But if you're not in London, do find your nearest protest. They're all over the UK. It's time to come together for one big push, and together we will create change. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already to the Pandemic Podcast, please do so. Next week, we are going to be initiating the first phases of launching our private community. Some of our most loyal subscribers will be getting the first shot at joining us in our private community to test ride the setup and the software that we've put together. And then beyond that, we'll be opening up the doors to all of our subscribers and our audience. So you're going to want to join our mailing list to make sure you get access to that. It's going to be a really exciting proposition. You can go to danjgregory.com/pandemic. And of course, we'll keep you fully up to date with the 2 weeks to Flatten the Mandates campaign and any other initiatives that we're involved in. So thanks very much for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your weekend. And I do hope to see some of you in London this weekend. If you're at the protest, come and say hi. I love meeting some of our audience. It's wonderful to see you. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you again tomorrow with our live broadcasts from London as we march to flatten the mandates. Good evening to you. See you soon.